Good afternoon, Pak Dendi. Thank you for joining us on the 3-Hour News Show. Now, according to the first quarter figures, the producers of mining and agriculture export commodities ranked in the most profits. Now, this is apparent from the fact that palm-producing regions experienced a near 5% growth. What is your take on this?
Yeah, as we know, CPO sector is the largest contributor of export in 2021. And in the first quarter, it's a bit disturbed by the export policy. I mean, because the government banned some of the, not some, I mean, almost all, 80% of the CPO and its derived products. So that's why it's very likely that the export performance will be declining.
Now, do you agree that the palm oil industry possesses significant investment potential?
Yeah. In the first quarter, the latest data shows that the investment is a bit declining from last year. I mean, in the first quarter, 2021, the number of investment is 9.8, yeah, for the plantation sectors, and this year in the first quarter it's only 6 trillion rupiah. So there's a decline. So because the signal that the prospect of the industry is a bit questioning.
Oh, I see. Now, another question would be the policy itself, right? Obviously, right now there's been a lot of information about food inflation, and Indonesia is one of the biggest, one of the biggest market shareholders and CPO exporters, right? How do you see it affecting the global oil prices?
Yeah, I think it's a bit problematic for the government. We realize that the government wants to maintain the inflation at the as low as possible, yeah, because of the pressure from the commodity prices. But I think the policy is a bit problematic, because when the government imposed the export ban, so at the same time we lose some opportunity to boost our export. At the same time, yeah, in the domestic price, I'm not sure the price will be lower because the production side has a problem. So
yeah.
So I think win-win solution would be that just let the export growing, and at the same time we have the mechanism subsidy, yeah, the levy from the export of CPO can be used to provide subsidy of the cooking oil.
Yeah.
So that the mechanism, I think, that gives the win solution for exporter and also consumer, including, of course, the farmer.
So just out of curiosity, I'm asking because I know, so it was reported that President Joko Widodo enacted this particular decision or policy because to maintain domestic stability. Just what is the percentage of exports versus the amount of CPO we keep here in the country usually before this particular policy for cooking oil and other commodities?
Yeah, if you look at the number, I mean, the domestic consumption is below that our export. Yeah, I give you the number that the consumption domestic for food about 9 million, biodiesel about 7 million, and other for industry or chemical about 2. So total approximately 18. So the export is 23 million ton. That's the data from last year. So if we want to just provide food, we only need 9 million on CPO.
Yeah.
That's why I think the export ban, I think that's a very large number that we can export that will be allocated for the domestic. So that's, I think, much more what we need. So that's kind of creating problem for the exporter and also for the farmer because what we export cannot be absorbed by the
Yes.
domestic market.
Yes. So that would just mean that we would have tons of surplus that we do not know what to do with that we usually would provide for exports because we are one of the biggest market share holders when it comes to CPO exports internationally. So what I'm trying to summarize you, if I'm trying to, from our discussion is basically that the farmers are complaining because the sudden drop is because they cannot sell as much as they used to before because usually they would, our domestic most of our domestic shares will go for exports because we would only need about 9 million tons for domestic production. Do you think, one last question from you would be, do you think with the recent, incidents with, cooking oil shortages and everything, would this particular year, or at least a stretch of time, the government wants to focus inwards to produce more for domestic and then think about exports again?
Yeah, I think we should open the export because that's the huge opportunity when the price is very high, and also it involves many people working in exploitation sector. Yeah, approximately 4 million direct worker and 12 million indirect workers. So in total, more than 16 million. So that's why I think we have to uh, manage this sector very carefully. At the same time, of course, we have to maintain the domestic price as low as possible or not very high, and also the availability. That's why the subsidy mechanism, I think that's a win-win solutions.
Yeah.
Subsidy can be financed by the levy that charged to the exporter.
Well, Pak Dendi, thank you so much for your insight. That was certainly a very big eye-opener to what is happening, specifically with the CPO surplus that Indonesia is going through right now. Thank you so much, Pak Dendi, for your time for our new show.